Good evening to you wonderful folk of Gall Hill, and good evening to the Barbados Labour Party family. First of all, I must endorse Margot Durant Callender. You heard her earlier. You understand how she feels passionately about the people of this area. She spoke to you about some of the projects that she has embarked on. And I'm certain that on the 21st of this month, the people of Christchurch West Central from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. will be going to the polls to ensure that Margot Durant Callender is returned as the candidate and the representative for Christchurch West Central. Of that, I have no doubt. But it is quite late now, they're telling me, and a number of you want to go and rest yourself. But I needed to say a few words this evening. I really had to. I had to. Because I want to speak to you this evening about a government of lies, deception, and gross incompetence. Lies, deception, and gross incompetence. Led by an accidental prime minister whose one glaring feature is his inability to make a decision. And so in 2013, Barbados is struggling along with this government. 5 years ago, all across this country, they spoke to you about a pathway to progress. And two tenets of this pathway were that they were going to reduce the cost of living in this country and make it easier for you to survive. Also, they were going to build a society and not an economy. What a lie. 5 years later, cost of living continues to climb. And we hear all sorts of excuses and reasons as to why this is happening. And this is a government that when we warned in 2007 that there were economic clouds, storm clouds on the horizon, poo-pooed it and said that the cost of living was rising because we in the BLP were in cahoots with the business sector. 5 years and 1 month later, who is in cahoots with the business sector? Everything has increased in cost. Cost of food has increased by over 40%. But the Prime Minister doesn't know this. Do you believe that the Prime Minister of Barbados knows what it is to go to a supermarket, to take up a chicken, and to look at the cost of it, and to put it back? Do you think he knows how much a pound of rice costs? Or for that reason, even a roll of toilet paper? He is out of touch with those realities of your life. And that is why, in the face of rising fuel prices, increasing water rates, increasing electricity bills, they could afford to increase the VAT and the Prime Minister to act as though nothing is happening. And he can wax warm to you and speak of history and tell you about what the Democratic Labour Party did for Barbados in 1961. He can quote to you from Virgil. He can quote from the Bible. But the suffering continues in this country. And now he has an opportunity to speak to Barbadians rather than explaining to them what he has been doing in terms of the economy. He speaks about who is a woman and that our leader is ill and sick and he's old. And you know what? More deception, because he's the same age as Owen Arthur. So if Owen Arthur is old, what is he? Old and ugly? But you understand. But tonight is special because that was cost of living. They spoke about building a society and not an economy. And in this constituency, you had little Hitler and Lilliputian from Gold Hill in St. John, who no one in St. John liked. No one in Gold Hill. During the by-election, we were canvassing and came upon the house where he grew up. And the people said, no one up here likes him. He is one DLP who, if he ran in St. John, the people in Gold Hill would not even support. He came here in a government that wants to build a society. And this minister is given a portfolio. Minister of Family, Culture, Sports, and Youth. Can you imagine? You want to build a society. Now, this is the ideal ministry for you to make your name spread all over this country, and particularly in your constituency. Can you imagine, with that sort of ministry, what should be happening in this constituency in terms of family, in terms of developing the community spirit, the community entrepreneurship, in terms of culture, not only in terms of crop over, but within these communities, in terms of sports, and certainly in terms of the development of the youth, in terms of the upliftment, in terms of training them, in terms of working with the people on the block to utilize their skills, and where they don't have skills, to ensure that they're doing internships, attachments, and something is done for them. A minister with this sort of portfolio, with all of the material available to him. And what is his record? What is his record? Family. You haven't heard him mention the word family since 2010 when David Thompson died. That was interred in his grave with him. HIV/AIDS. This minister has responsibility for the HIV/AIDS program. And the World Bank has been severely critical in terms of its execution under his management. And have even recommended that it be removed from that ministry because it is so badly implemented. Culture. You've seen the problems in culture, the problems in the NCF, where this little Hitler wants to do everything and demand what must happen. The director her appointment came to an end and she didn't even know that she was not going to be reappointed. Wayne Simmons, long-standing DLP, had to run away from that ministry. What is happening in sports? A mess. The Sports Council, a veritable morass. What is happening in sports in this constituency? And you have this Minister Lashley parading for 3 years, promised you that the National Stadium track will be relayed. And every month for the last 4 months has been telling you that it will finish next month. This is now February, and you don't even know what is going to happen to the inter-school sports. That is a sort of management. That is a sort of incompetent leadership which I am speaking about in terms of this government. And then we come to the youth. And after 5 years, and having held a special rally at Haynesville in 2008 for young people, and promising them and displaying a youth manifesto, telling them all of these things that were in this manifesto for the youth of Barbados. What do you have to show for it? Absolutely nothing. A youth policy debated in Parliament and laid, frivolous, superficial, not dealing with the main issues concerning the youth of this country. That is what you have been saddled with. And that is why I'm saying that Minister Lashley is incompetent and useless. And when the time comes, you should ensure that you give Margot Durant Calendar the vote and ensure that he goes back to his law practice, or perhaps to collect his bullet, the bullet from his gun from the District Air Police Station. But I said society. And on the other end, there's a Minister of Education and Human Resources Development. So these are two key ministries in building this society that they speak about. Ministry of Education. And Minister Jones indicated before he even entered the ministry what sort of minister he was going to be. He spoke about how he was going to deal with the civil servants, how he was going to kick down doors. 5 years later, look at the Ministry of Education in Barbados. Look at it. Not even speaking about the University of West Indies and tertiary education, where we owe $150 million. And not even certain if Barbadian students will be allowed to enter the university in September this year. Not even speaking about that. We left plans for a University College of Barbados, where the community college would have been expanded. That was a BLP project. They put it to sleep. What do you have at community college to eat this evening? You have a principal who has been there for over 24 years. And as I speak to you, he is now on a month-to-month contract. Confusion at the community college. And then we come to the Alexandra School. And the minister looks at you, lies and deception again, and tells you that everything has settled down at the Alexandra School. What nonsense. Can you imagine a minister of education who claimed to be a teacher, who in the middle of a school year could agree to the movement of over 40 teachers across secondary schools and move teachers? For example, I'm told that in the case of Alexandra School, even this evening, fifth form French students have not had a class as yet, because in this nonsense, you replace a French teacher with a Spanish teacher. Can you imagine that someone who is teaching French to CXC, you remove him from the Alexandra School and send a Spanish teacher? Do you understand the incompetence that I'm speaking about in 2013? But it even got worse. You heard the teacher from Princess Margaret, who teaches orthotronics, being transferred to Alexandra, where that course is not taught. He can't teach technical drawing, but the technical drawing teacher is transferred to Princess Margaret, where technical drawing is not taught. And you have a Minister Jones parading in his high heel shoes and acting as though he knows what is going on. What nonsense. You understand the seriousness of this? To those of you who have children who are babysitting CXCs in June, you know how traumatic this can be to the children. If you're doing over 5 CXCs, at least 3 or 4 of those courses, you will now have a new teacher who knows nothing about you 10 weeks before exams. And you have Minister Jones, if I can call him that, speaking about things that have settled and that everything is fine and that teachers go on leave. We are not speaking about 1 or 2 teachers. We are speaking about 40 teachers. And how can you, in clear thinking and being a teacher, admittedly of a primary school, not know the gravity of the severity of the problems that you would cause in a secondary school system? And these are the sort of things we have to abide by that are happening in Barbados. No wonder the Prime Minister stopped letting him act as Deputy Prime Minister. A total failure. Can you imagine? A failure. I believe it was his wife who evicted him. A failure as a teacher. a failure in the Ministry of Education, a failure as Deputy Prime Minister, and even a failure in the Caribbean Federation Football Union. A total failure. So why should the people of Christchurch East Central continue to be saddled with a total failure? It is time for them to deal with Jones. It is certainly the time. But I'm saying to you, I don't know what he carried away or didn't carry away. You probably have information that I don't have. You might have information I don't have. You can say, I can't say. What I can say is with the Barbados Labour Party, there is a different way. There is a better way. And over the next 2 weeks in this campaign, you will see as we reveal to you the policies of the Barbados Labour Party. You heard Comrade Motley speaking earlier tonight in terms of the youth. You've heard us speaking about the part in terms of the fuel prices, your electricity bills, the measures we have. And in terms of dealing with education and bringing about that revolution in education within this country. It is certainly time, again in Barbados, I think you will appreciate, for the bees again. And I want to ask each and every one of you as I close this evening, recognizing the time of the night, that I want you to ensure that in Christchurch East, the BLP Abrams, Christchurch East Central, Desmond Sands, Christchurch West, Maria Aguiard, Christchurch South, yours truly, and of course in Christchurch West Central, I want you to ensure that Margot Durant Callender is duly elected and that we, under the leadership of Barbados, will bring about that transformation that is necessary and important at this point in time. I thank you and God bless.
Comrades, on behalf of the Barbados Labour Party, on behalf of all the Christchurch candidates, I would like to thank you all for turning out.